The first thing I want to talk about is something that is actually very dangerous for surveillance investigators. This is the feeling I am entitled mode some PIs get into when someone confronts them while on surveillance. This is when the owner of the house where the PI is sitting in front of or someone else comes out after noticing the PI has been there day after day all week and asks, "What are you doing here?" The correct response, "This person is not. It's a public road, sir. I have a right to be here." While that statement is technically correct, it is a public road and you do have a right to sit there. It is also a great way to not only get the police called on you, but also get the entire neighborhood notified through the neighborhood watch system, and that would probably include your subject. I have had to help diffuse this type of situation a few times with other PIs working our cases, and by the way, we no longer utilize their services because of huge mistakes like that. Having that mentality will most definitely escalate the situation, to say the least, and it always ends in disaster. Even if you have a right to sit there, if the cops roll up, ask you to step out or whatever, your cover has been blown. I have had plenty of times where people have asked me what I am doing while on surveillance. It's just going to happen, folks. If you follow your target out of the neighborhood enough times, then return or go out day after day after day, people will start to take notice. I usually use one of three guises, if you will. The first and my most popular one is to just say something like, "Sorry to bother you, sir. I am a process server. I have some papers here and I'm waiting for someone down the street." I always make sure I have some papers of some kind with me on the front seat too, which helps the guys a lot. Sometimes I might just say something like, "Sorry to be a bother. I am just waiting for someone," and leave it at that. This often will work if they have just noticed you once or twice in a short period of time. This video is sponsored by OREP Insurance and Working PI Magazine. OREP is a leading provider of private investigator liability insurance. Visit orep.org for a quote today. Then there are the times where I actually tell them the truth. Not the whole truth, mind you, but a bit of the truth. "Sorry to bother you, ma'am. I am a licensed private investigator. We are just watching an individual down the road. Don't worry, it doesn't have anything to do with you or your household." If they have seen me multiple times and have seen my equipment, it just doesn't make sense to try to hide it. So, going the truthful route makes things a bit easier. Using the language "we are just watching" also implies there is someone else out there with you too, which sometimes helps the situation. But what if they say they're going to call the police? When that happens to me, I tell them that it's fine. The police already know I'm here. Sometimes I even offer to call the police for them. Now, most of the time, I will call myself into dispatch when I'm out on surveillance. I know some folks who never call themselves in. I know some, like me, that do it almost all the time. And then there are those that only call in when they feel a need. Like when they notice a neighbor has noticed them, they call in dispatch just in case. But that's a topic for another video. Now, here is a huge mistake to not make while on mobile surveillance. Passing your subject on the highway or freeway or wherever can be disastrous. Sometimes it just happens by mistake. I get it. That has happened to me plenty of times. The target gets over in the far left lane, passing everyone. You finally get over there. Then he switches back to the middle lane. Oh no, is he exiting? Is he just continuing in that lane? Am I burned? A million things go through your mind. Then suddenly your subject is 3 cars behind you, heading over to the far right lane, and you are stuck in the fast lane with angry drivers behind you. He exits, you have to go up 2 more miles to another exit, and the day is, well, probably over. How will you explain that to your client? Following on multi-lane roads is tricky, folks. I always try to stay 1 lane to the right of my subject or directly behind them. If they get into the fast lane, I do so as well. Then as soon as we get around a car or two, I switch back to the middle lane for a bit. This usually works fine, unless there's a left lane exit. You need to keep your eyes peeled out for those ahead of you too. Now, here is one of the biggest mistakes you can make while on surveillance, folks. Not having some of these. I will let you decide what their purpose is, folks. Taking breaks, breaking off stationary surveillance to use the facilities, folks, is about the worst thing you could ever do on surveillance. I know it's tough. I know when you gotta go, you gotta go. I know how hard it is to sit there in the heat, in the cold, and all of the other extremes. But once you leave your post, you no longer are sure of anything. Even if you get back, the subject's car is still there. Nothing appears to have changed. Does that mean he is still really there? Let me tell you a little story about a domestic case we had one time. It was in a smaller rural community. The client wanted us to watch his fiance while he was out of town. He was suspicious that she might be seeing someone, but wanted to make sure before he confronted her. We had 4 long days of surveillance to work on this case. We had 2 investigators, too, to cover the front and the rear of the residence and all exit routes for the neighborhood. It was fairly straightforward, nothing really special about it. Day 1 was pretty simple for the surveillance investigators. The client's fiance came home for a short period after work, then went to the grocery store, then back home, and then stayed there the remainder of the evening. The lights went off around 10 p.m., and we called it a night. Day 2 rolls around, same setup. 1 investigator was watching the back, 1 watching the front of the residence. She comes home from work and hangs out outside for a while. A female from a neighboring house came over. They spoke a while, then the neighbor went back home. Our subject went inside for a bit, then comes out about an hour later and walks over to the neighbor's house. We already knew this was a good friend of hers from the intel our client provided, so it was no big surprise. Then it did get a bit tricky. All of a sudden, there were multiple neighbors going over to that house all at the same time. The PIs got a little nervous, wondering if they were burned, and the neighbors were all talking about them, but they maintained their position. Soon it became apparent to them what was going on. It turned out to be a neighborhood barbecue party. The investigators were able to observe everything, obtain video of the subject, and ascertain that nothing wrong was happening. After the barbecue, the subject returned to her residence, and like clockwork, lights were out at 10 p.m., and the investigators called it a day. Day 3 was a lot like day 1 and day 2 combined. Subject comes home, then goes to the grocery store, then a convenience store, then returns home. She spends some time talking with her neighbor, then goes and does some yard work, then back inside and lights out at 10 p.m. All is looking well. Everything seemed, up to this point, to be very normal. This was really good for this type of case. We often do not get good news to provide to our clients on infidelity cases, but there was still 1 more day to cover. The 4th day was a Saturday. Client wanted most of the afternoon and the evening covered. The investigators get out around noon, and all seems to be okay. 1 of her vehicles is present, and the subject is outside on the front porch, just sitting, as if she was waiting for someone. After a while, she goes inside the residence, then suddenly they see her exiting the garage in the back, driving a second vehicle. Now the chase is on, folks. For the next few hours, they followed her to several stores where she did a lot of shopping, mostly clothes shopping, but she also did some grocery shopping too. After a few hours, she returned home for a short period of time. She then left again and went back to one of the stores she was at prior. It appeared she was returning or exchanging something. After leaving there, she went to a residence in another town. It turned out this was a relative's house, but it was a bit startling at first. She then returned home late in the afternoon, around 5 or 6, then stayed there, or at least that is what the investigators thought. Hang on, you won't believe what happened the next day. That very next day, I got a call from the client asking how everything went. I told him it all went well, nothing to worry about. He asked me, did anyone come to the house at all? I said, nope, not that we observed, sir. He asked me, did she leave with anyone at any time? I said, nope, not that we observed, sir. He then said, well, that's weird, John. I was there last night, right before 10 p.m. I surprised her and I took her out for an evening on the town. Now, after I picked my lower jaw up off the ground, I took a big gulp and I said, excuse me? Mostly because I didn't know what else to say. I reread my updates from the night before, and it stated the PIs left about 10:30 p.m., just like previous nights after lights were out for about 30 minutes. Nothing further to report. I called my investigators, and after a lot of heated discussions, I finally got the truth. One of the investigators had to go to the bathroom. That investigator decided it was close enough to 10 p.m. that he would not miss anything and left his post only for a short period. When he returned, everything was exactly as he left it. Nothing changed except lights were out, but he expected that. The positions the PIs were in, one covered the front and one covering the rear of the residence, did not allow them to see each other. So the PI watching the back never saw the other PI leave, and he never told him he was leaving. And when the client pulled up in front of the house, went inside and got his fiancée, the PI in the rear couldn't see any of that. He just saw the lights go off when they left the house. Well, folks, that was a sad day for me, to be sure, but I used it as an educational process too. I made it right for my client, and I added procedures and processes in place for all of our surveillance jobs to help ensure that never happens again.